Hi guys, and welcome to the second episode on Biosphere 2. If you missed part 1, just go on back and have a listen so you know what the fuck is going on. I'm sorry that the audio quality on it is really bad, but I'm working on it. But there's no other way to recap without you going back and listening. So let's do this. Now, last week we left off with the bionauts emerging from B2 and the public's reaction to the experiment and what we learned from it. So what is Biosphere 2 up to today? Well, I'm happy to report that it's alive and well and committed to continuing its research. In 1994, Decisions Investments Corporation assumed control of the property, and Columbia University managed it from 1996 to 2003 and reconfigured the structure for a different mode of scientific research, including a study on the effects of carbon dioxide on plants. Columbia also built classrooms and housing for college students of earth science. The property was then sold in 2007 to CDO Ranching and its development partners, who then leased the property to U Arizona from 2007 to 2011. The enclosure now serves as a tool to support research already underway by U Arizona scientists. As a laboratory for large-scale projects such as the Landscape Evolution Observatory, the university's stewardship of Biosphere 2 will allow U Arizona to perform key experiments aimed at quantifying some of the consequences of global climate change. So it's doing its thing, it's contributing, it's helping, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Over 3 million people have visited since 1991. The Biosphere 2 website says that B2 Experience tour route is approximately 1 mile in length, and it takes you around the exterior and interior wilderness areas of Biosphere 2. It is recommended that you wear comfortable shoes and bring bottled water. And I want to say, I think the tickets were only $25, which I think is totally worth it. If you can't make it out to Arizona, there is a virtual tour, which I highly recommend. You really have to see it to believe it. When I began writing this, I was trying to picture it in my head, and it just is nowhere near as spectacular as the thing that was going on in my head. When I told my friend Leland that I was researching this, she seemed to remember some drama around this, and after a bit of digging, I was able to find what I was looking for. And by the way, this section has discussions of Steve Bannon and sexual harassment, so listener discretion is advised. After this experiment, they decided to launch another one. This one was only going to be about 10 months long. And this one didn't go so well, and of course, that's the one that everybody remembers decades later, and they seem to intertwine the two and think that they're the same thing. So unfortunately for everybody involved, Steve Bannon took over this phase of Biosphere 2 when the funding dried up. Back in the early 90s, he ran the investment firm Bannon and Company in Beverly Hills. Before he became who he became, he was interested in earth sciences. So he shifted the project's focus from the human element to mineral and environmental studies. But the science project, which started with 8 people living in a closed habitat, disintegrated amongst earthly squabbles, lawsuits, and allegations of sexual harassment involving Steve Bannon, which doesn't surprise me at all. The former Biosphere 2 consultant was accused in separate court filings of threatening one female employee and harassing another. Because of Bannon's lack of concern for the human participants, bionauts from the previous crew feared for the lives of those inside. They took action, breaking through the biosphere defenses in 3 separate places in April of 1994. I'm not sure why they had to go to that extreme. Bannon probably cut the phone lines, allegedly, in my opinion. And then all of a sudden, in 1995, Bannon told C-SPAN that the 2 projects were heroic. 2 years earlier, in 1993, he sought management changes as part of a takeover effort. Bannon advised ousting 2 managers and resigned as CEO when the parent company, Space Biosphere Ventures, rejected his recommendations. So that sounds to me like he's just throwing a temper tantrum. I'm out of here if you guys don't do what I want. He was rehired in 1994 when his recommendations were adopted. So bring back the money. You know, they did what he wanted, so he would keep funding. Lawsuits soon followed. Court records show Biosphere 2 officials filed a federal lawsuit accusing project director Margaret Augustine of funneling $800,000 of project money into her own company. They sought to put the company into receivership and ban Augustine and other managers from the site. Augustine denied wrongdoing and the next day filed her own lawsuit in Pinal County Superior Court seeking $44.5 million in damages for breach of contract, libel, slander, and sexual harassment, among other allegations. She accused Bannon and other managers of making lewd, suggestive, and disparaging remarks about her and other employees, which I'll buy for $1. Augustine later settled her case. The terms were not disclosed, which I think is pretty common. Like, now you can't talk about it. You can never say what big pieces of crap we were, in my opinion. That wasn't the end of Bannon's legal troubles over accusations that he mistreated women, which is no surprise to me. 2 former Biosphere 2 crew members who were fired sued Space Biosphere Ventures for breach of contract along with several other claims. Abigail Ailing and Mark Van Thilo were fired in 1994 after they admitted breaking into the Biosphere 2 to warn crew members on the second mission that Bannon had been rehired and soon would be taking over. The Tucson Citizen reported in 1996 that Bannon admitted in court to threatening Ailing and making disparaging remarks about her. So they must have had some pretty good evidence on him for him to actually admit that he's a piece of shit. He told Pinal County jurors that after Ailing wrote a 5-page safety memo, he once threatened to ram it down her fucking throat. These are the people we want in office. Bannon also admitted calling her a bimbo and referring to her as self-centered and deluded, which by today's standards is pretty mild. But back then, you know, when people had a little bit of class, a little bit of dignity, that was pretty bad. The jury found in favor of the plaintiffs and ordered Space Biosphere Ventures to pay $600,000 in damages. Aileen and Theo were ordered to pay $41,000 for breaking into the facility. Bannon successfully managed the project until it was transferred to Columbia University in 1996, which operated it as a research site. In 2007, it was sold to the University of Arizona. And what the fuck is the bar for successfully? Telling people to shove shit down their fucking throats, sexual harassing people. But he managed it successfully. The mission had to be shut down about 3 months early, which is really unfortunate because the second mission had been showing a lot of promise. But he managed it successfully. So the second crew had managed to achieve total food sufficiency and were maintaining oxygen levels. But then I read another article that said months into the second mission, the atmospheric concentration of N2O, which is laughing gas, exceeded safe limits and the experiment was declared over. And I hate to give Bannon any attention, but the Bionauts caught a lot of slack for abandoning the mission, and I want you guys to understand why. One headline was like, 8 people go mad inside the biosphere. And just about every article I found, except for one, didn't give any indication as to why things were going south. Like the Bionauts had suffered some sort of cabin fever and just couldn't hack it. But there's a huge difference between the Biosphere people go mad and two of the participants broke into the Biosphere to warn people that Steve Bannon had taken over and they were concerned for their lives. That's a big difference. And I want to quote Daniel Litt because he said so eloquently in his post called The Lost World, "Honestly, I prefer the bumbling madness of the Biosphere's first mission to the corporate shuffle that came afterwards. The Biospherians determined to stick it out even though they couldn't stand one more second of each other's company, and the willpower that let them continue while they could barely breathe. I think I understand the urge that made them try to retreat to a better world." And this is pretty much how I feel about the whole thing, but he said it so much better, so I just wanted to borrow his words. And this brings us to the end of the episode. I recently created a YouTube channel, Lady Ayla Nicole, and you can find all episodes there as well. Give it a like, leave a comment, share it with your friends if you liked it, or your enemies if you don't. On Spotify, you can give the channel a 5-star review and follow so you never miss a Monday morning episode. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, don't try this at home. Bye.